Alrighty, welcome to another Keys to the Kingdom discussion where we'll be discussing what exactly is the lower house because this is one of the more fascinating aspects of the house there, where it has the seven domains. There, you got the lower house, middle house, and upper house. You got the incomparable gardens. You got the border sea, the far reaches, and the great maze there. Now, the lower house is one that's not all set in one spot because there's many different parts of the lower house there. For example, you got doorstop hill where the front door of the house is there that goes out to the secondary realms. It's basically the main part of the front door, even though the front door does go out in other places. There in the house is the main spot there. They're set up on a hill called doorstop hill, or it could be on a knoll. There, I don't know what the difference between a hill and a knoll is, but then you also got Monday's day room, which is set inside of a mountain, which only has two ways to get into there. So let's start there. With Monday's day room, this is kind of cool. He has it pretty much perched inside, suspended inside of a mountain there. Then there's only two ways to get to it. You can go up the path that's filled with tents and all kinds of denizens waiting to get their questions answered, because they only sees like two people per house year, and because house time and it runs on true time versus everywhere else in the secondary realms there. But there's also another secret way you can get through, is on this little spider wire. It's called spider wire, where you can walk across it and your feet always stick to it, but it eventually disappears. After like 20 minutes, it starts disappearing after it detects someone's on it. It's actually pretty cool. Can you just imagine walking on a little piece of, like, say, 8 pound fishing line? You're just walking across it. It'd be like so weird. And if you do not get to the day room by the time the spider wire di- uh, disappears, you fall into what's called nothing mud, which pretty much will just dissolve you. So when you get into Monday's day room, there it's just filled, because he likes his mud baths. There's just just think of a path of just think of well, not say a hoarder, but a hoarder. You know how the hoarder's house, there's always just a one path through the house. That's what Monday's day room is, but only it's all these different mud baths. I'm assuming each one has a different property, but they do not go into detail on it. But so just think, you going along these paths, there of all these just mud baths, because he's just, that's all he does is all day is sit in the mud baths. But we'll discuss that when we get to Mr. Monday there. And his day room is actually protected by a moat there that's filled, and it's to protect himself against the first part of the will that he encased in there. We'll get to that when we talk about the first part of when we talk about the will. Haven't decided if I'm going to break down the 7 parts or not. But it has these little niffling worms. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they detect any kind of writing. So even if you have like the tags on the back of your shirts here, even if you forget to take those off your clothes, those things will attack and devour you, just trying to get at the writing, because they're specifically designed to eat writing. So that's so that the will cannot get into Monday's day room without him being detected there. Now, so that's pretty much the basic simple thing with Monday's day room there. Then the the way that the Lower House is set up is, just think of it. It's the bureaucracy of the entire house there, and there's so many, like, what you'd call like modern day office buildings that can go hundreds of stories tall, but it's laid out like London in the 1500s. The winding cobble streets. And you got the old houses. There's not really much houses. The denizens don't really need to sleep, so they get they pretty much sleep in their offices. They're always running around bustling, but it keeps all the records of, like, every person, or every, oh, I shouldn't say person, because I'm pretty sure there's aliens out on the secondary realms, even though the story you just have to assume that because we can't be the only ones in the universe first there. But it keeps your records and all that of everything. It keeps track of transactions. It's like that guy that sits in the basement of those old libraries and it's always keeping records on everybody, you know. But it's almost impossible the way the management of the lower house was. It's almost impossible to find your own record because it has your birth, what you're going to do, everything you think, you know, the time you're going to die. And that's how Arthur gets chosen because Sneezer, who was actually inhabited by the first part of the will, or, well, I should, not inhabited, but mentally taken over by the first part of the will there. He convinced Mr. Monday just to give Arthur the first half of the key, transfer the power to him, let him die, then return the key, and they'll fix it. He basically manipulated him to give Arthur half of his key, and that saved Arthur's life, and that's how he became the rightful heir to the architect, was through that manipulation. But so he goes, and he wanted to actually try to find his record, so he could change it so that he didn't die, he could avoid becoming the rightful heir, but that obviously doesn't work out by the time we get to the end of the books there. But and that's a fancy question. Would you want to look at your own record? Answer that in the comment section. Would you actually want to find your record and see what it says about you? But the lower house is so mismanaged that nothing actually ever gets done. Their work doesn't get done, keeping up with the records, changing the records, tweaking it there. But it is the bureaucracy of the lower house, and it's so mismanaged, and that leads to the stories. Another part of the house that's in a different set, it's connected to the lower house, but it's not actually in the lower house, is the lower coal cellar. We learn about that because Arthur gets thrown in the lower coal cellar where the old one resides, or that's the name we get. He's just referred to as the old one, which, if I'm remembering correctly, he was the let's just say the companion to the architect, like because there's no much. Like when the architect created everything, there's no such thing as marriage, and he's actually the father of you got the Piper, Lord Sunday, which we find out in Sunday's book that he's the eldest son. Then you got the Piper, and then I believe the Mariner is also the son. So there's 3 sons to the architect, and the old one is actually chained up in the impenetrable thing, like not even the 7 keys can free the old one because it is the original creation of the architect, where he's chained to a clock that every time the clock reaches noon and midnight there, that his hands are pretty much bound and clasped. And then you got these little like a woodpecker with the saw, and another thing with a woodpecker, and another little like gnome thing that comes out of those clock faces there with his corkscrew, and it bulges out his eyes as a punishment. I don't think it's specifically said why he's being punished, but can you just imagine the gruesome pain of having your eyes gouged out every 12 hours? I mean, they'll grow back in a couple hours because he is one of the original creations of the architect, so he has that residual magic, or well, he's resilient to that. That's the thing you'll find out with a lot of denizens do. They can take a lot of abuse and punishment. Their bodies can withstand a lot of stuff, and they can heal fit quickly because they're not built like humans. They're just one of the what they call what the old one likes to refer to as one of the architect's side projects and all that. So yeah. So the lower coal cellar, it's just shaped, on the piles, and that's where the old one resides and stuff. Oh man, I should have turned off my phone before I was doing this. But also, the one thing with each parts of the house. Now we're onto another part here. Another part of it is each part of the house or whatever, or each trustee has three pretty much servant or high ups or people that are in charge that manage the day to day affairs. They're just only named Mondays, dawn, noon, and dusk. They just manage the day to day affairs there, and like the noon there, he noon and dusk have guards, and they pretty much patrol and control the Nifling populations and stuff, and they take care of any problems. Is you got the metal commissioners and the commissioner surgeons, which are these metal robot things that have like blood that's made of mercury. So they're basically automatons that have no thinking capability. They just do what they're told. And like when they got told to throw Arthur into the deep coal cellar because Noon can physically touch him, they were the ones that threw him under there. And Dusk's guards, and that help, and they patrol at night. It's called the Midnight Visitors. They're winged servants. They can fly around and all that. That so that's pretty much everything that there is to talk about the Lore House. It's fascinating. I couldn't find anything that could really represent anything in the Bible, like I could figure out with Doorstop Hill, and when we get to the border sea, I can get more into that on that one, and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. So the question I got for you, the answer in the comments there. Please do comment and please like and subscribe and stuff. Is would you want to see your record, like everything there is to know that's gonna happen when you're gonna die and everything? Would you want to see your own record? So with that, you guys have a good night, and remember